My name is Natalie Carter. There was a time when I was just a girl with paint-stained hands, lost under the glittering lights of Manhattan. But then, life threw me to the very bottom. When even my own husband turned his back on me, and his family tried to take my children away. The breaking point came the night I stood in my tiny kitchen, custody papers in my hands, and heard my husband say, "I don't know who you are anymore. Maybe time apart is what we need." That was the moment I realized no one was coming to save me. I had to save myself. Before I share my full story, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe if you've ever overcome hardship. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happens next. The champagne flute trembled in my paint-stained fingers. I'd scrubbed them raw in the gallery bathroom, but oil paint has a way of claiming you, marking you as its own. Around me, Manhattan's elite glided through the Gala like swans on a golden pond, and I, Natalie Carter from Newark, stood frozen near my paintings, feeling like a sparrow who'd crashed through the wrong window. "These pieces lack refinement," a woman in diamonds murmured to her companion, not bothering to lower her voice. "You can tell the artist is untrained." My cheeks burned. 3 jobs: waiting tables, cleaning offices, teaching kids art classes, all to afford 1 semester at the School of Visual Arts. My professor had insisted I come tonight. "The Whitmore Foundation wants to see your work," he'd said. "This could change everything." I was turning to leave when I saw him. He stood before my largest canvas, a piece I'd painted after my mother's death, all raw reds and desperate blacks. And his face held something I'd never seen in this crowd. Not the polite interest of potential buyers or the calculating gaze of critics. He looked moved. "It's grief," I found myself saying, stepping beside him, "but also survival. The way pain transforms into something else if you let it." He turned to me then, and I forgot to breathe. Dark hair, eyes like winter sky, the kind of bone structure that belonged on museum walls. But it was his expression that caught me, open, almost vulnerable. "You're the artist, not a question." He extended his hand. "Ethan Whitmore." The name hit me like cold water. Whitmore. As in the Whitmore Hotels, the Whitmore Foundation, the Whitmore family who owned half of Manhattan. "Natalie," I managed, shaking his hand. His grip was warm, steady. "Your work?" He paused, searching for words. "It's honest. Everything else here feels like it's trying to sell me something. Yours just is." The crowd had noticed us. Whispers rippled through the room like wind through wheat. Ethan Whitmore, talking to the nobody artist, the girl with paint under her fingernails. "Would you have dinner with me?" he asked suddenly, loudly enough that nearby conversations stopped. "Tomorrow night?" A woman who could only be his mother materialized beside us, her smile sharp as winter ice. "Ethan, darling, the Vanderbilts are waiting." He didn't look away from me. "Natalie? Tomorrow?" Every instinct screamed run. This wasn't my world. But something in his eyes, a loneliness that matched my own, made me nod. "I work at Rosie's Diner in Queens until 9, I said, chin lifted. If he wanted me, he'd get the truth. His smile transformed his face. "Then, I'll see you at 9:15. He came every night for 2 weeks. The bell above Rosie's door would chime at 9:15, and there he'd be, $1,000 shoes stepping over cracked linoleum, sitting in the booth with the duct-taped seats. "You know they have restaurants in Manhattan," I said one night, refilling his coffee for the 3rd time. "They don't have you." Yes. Rosie, who'd owned the place for 30 years, watched us like we were her favorite soap opera. "That boy's got it bad," she'd mutter, sliding extra pie onto Ethan's plate. He told me about his life in fragments, board meetings at 16, trust funds that felt like golden cages, a father who saw him as an heir, not a son, a mother who collected people like art pieces. I told him about mine, how dad left when I was 7, how mom cleaned hotels, maybe even his family's, until her back gave out, how she'd save quarters in a jar marked Natalie's Dreams even when we needed groceries. "She sounds remarkable," Ethan said softly. She was. The grief still caught me sometimes, sharp as broken glass. "She died last year. Never saw me get into art school." His hand found mine across the table. "She sees." On our 20th night at Rosie's, the winter rain turned to snow. The diner emptied early, leaving just us and the hiss of the coffee machine. Ethan pulled out a small velvet box. "I know it's fast," he said, but I've spent 28 years being careful, being what everyone expected. You're the first real thing in my life. The ring was simple. A single pearl surrounded by tiny diamonds. Not the boulder his mother would expect. Your family, I started, will adapt or they won't. I'm done living for them. He slid out of the booth, knelt on the sticky floor. Marry me, Natalie. Let me be real with you. Rosie appeared with champagne she'd been hiding for her retirement. About time, she declared. Yes or no, honey? Boys' knees ain't getting any younger on that floor. I laughed through tears. Yes. The storm outside stopped, as if the world held its breath with us. We married at St. Sebastian's in Brooklyn. 12 people attended. My friends from school, Rosie, Ethan's college roommate who defied the Whitmore ban. The church smelled of old wood and hope. I wore my mother's wedding dress, altered to fit. Ethan cried when he saw me. His family's absence screamed louder than any protest. The gossip columns ran wild. Hotel heir's hasty marriage to nobody. But in our tiny apartment above the Korean grocery, we built a world they couldn't touch. Ethan started his own firm, consulting for boutique hotels. I painted between shifts, the spare bedroom reeking of turpentine and dreams. When the pregnancy test showed positive, we sat on the fire escape, watching pigeons court on the opposite roof. We're having a baby, I whispered. We're having a baby, he repeated, wonder in his voice. Lucas came during a spring thunderstorm, screaming his arrival to the world. Ethan held him first, tears streaming. He's perfect. Look what we made. 3 months later, a package arrived. No return address, but the Whitmore crest pressed into purple wax. Inside, a silver rattle worth more than our rent, and a card in Vivian Whitmore's precise script, for our grandson. It's a peace offering, Ethan said hopefully. But I knew better. Rattlesnakes rattle before they strike. Ethan rebuilt bridges slowly. Sunday dinners at the estate, where Vivian would coo over Lucas while studying me like a specimen. Are you sure you're feeding him enough, dear? He seems small. Or, such an interesting choice, raising children in that neighborhood. I'd smile, nod, survive. For Ethan, for Lucas, for the family we were building. She's trying, Ethan would say on the drive home. She's planning, I'd think but never said. 2 years passed in this careful dance. I got my first gallery show, small but mine. Ethan's business grew. Lucas learned to walk, then run, chasing pigeons on the roof. We were happy in the way of people who've built something from nothing. Then she arrived. Family helps family, Vivian announced, ushering Samantha Monroe into our lives like a Trojan horse wrapped in Chanel. Poor dear's divorcing that awful man in California. She needs somewhere to land. Samantha had honey hair and a laugh like wind chimes. Ethan's cousin from the California branch, though the family tree seemed fuzzy when I pressed. She air-kissed my cheeks, proclaimed my apartment charmingly authentic, and moved into our guest room, my studio, within the week. Just temporarily, she promised, squeezing my hands. You're an angel for this. She inserted herself like sugar in coffee, sweet, dissolving, impossible to remove. Suddenly, she was picking up Lucas from daycare when I worked late, organizing Ethan's files because you must be so overwhelmed, Natalie. Offering to help with my next show since she'd dabbled in curation at Berkeley. The changes came slowly. She'd rearrange my paintings while I was out. Better flow, she'd explain. She'd cook elaborate dinners when I planned simple ones, sighing. Ethan mentioned he's been craving real food. She's helping? Ethan said when I tried to voice my unease. God knows we need it with the baby coming. Oh yes, I was pregnant again. The timing felt like another cosmic joke. At my gallery opening, Samantha appeared in a dress identical to mine, but in white, making me look like her shadow. She guided viewers to my paintings with proprietary pride, explaining my primitive technique and raw, untutored talent. Such courage, I heard her tell a critic, taking on art without formal training. Ethan finds it so refreshing after all that manufactured sophistication he grew up with. But the moment that changed, everything came later. Lucas had nightmares, crying for mama. I rushed to his room to find Samantha already there, holding him. Shh, baby, she cooed. Sammy's here. I want mama, Lucas sobbed. I know, sweetness, but mama's tired. Let's let her sleep. I took my son from her arms. Her smile never wavered, but something flickered in her eyes. Victory. That night, I searched property records online. Samantha Monroe wasn't Ethan's cousin, wasn't even related. She was the daughter of Richard Whitmore's law partner, useful, connected, but not blood. The serpent had shown her scales. The invitation arrived on ivory cardstock, so thick it could cut. The Whitmore Foundation's annual gala. Our names in gold script. After 3 years of exile, we were being welcomed back. "This is good," Ethan insisted, adjusting his cufflinks. "They're accepting us." Samantha emerged from the guest room. 6 months she'd been there now, holding 2 dresses. "Natalie, I picked these up for you. The blue is so practical." Practical. Code for, you'll blend into the wallpaper where you belong. At the gala, I understood. Every other woman shimmered in jewel tones, while I stood in navy blue like the help. Samantha floated past in emerald green, her hand on Ethan's elbow as she introduced him to investors. "And this is Natalie," she'd add, an afterthought. "Ethan's wife. She paints." The word shrank in her mouth. Paints. Like a child's hobby. I escaped to the bathroom, hands shaking. In the mirror, a tired woman in a dowdy dress, 5 months pregnant, dark circles under her eyes. When had I become this? "There you are." Vivian Whitmore's reflection appeared behind mine. "Samantha's been so helpful tonight. She understands this world. Poor Ethan's been struggling without proper support. He has me." Her smile could have frozen champagne. "Of course, dear, but men need auxiliary assistance, especially Whitmore men." Back in the ballroom, I found Ethan signing papers at Richard's urging, Samantha at his shoulder. "Just formalities," Richard said smoothly. "Tax benefits, nothing major." "Ethan," I called, "what are you signing?" "Business stuff." He didn't look up. Samantha reviewed it. The floor tilted. Since when did Samantha review our legal documents? In the car home, I tried to explain my fears, but Ethan was flying high on his father's approval, on the promise of family reconciliation. "They're helping us," he said. "Why can't you see that?" Because I'd grown up hungry enough to know, when rich people offer help, there's always a price. And we wouldn't know the cost until the bill came due. Amelia arrived 2 weeks later. I named her for Hope, beloved. But even that joy felt tainted. Ethan missed her birth. "An emergency board meeting," Samantha had explained, calling from his phone. "So sorry, Natalie. I'll make sure he gets there as soon as possible." He arrived 3 hours after our daughter's first cry, smelling of whiskey and regret. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." But sorry was just another word by then, like love, like family, like trust. The photos arrived in a manila envelope, no return address. Me at the coffee shop with Marcus, my old classmate, who'd helped install my gallery show. His hand on my shoulder as we laughed. The angle made it look intimate. The timestamp, carefully highlighted, showed 2 a.m. "It was 2 p.m., I told Ethan, voice steady despite my shaking hands. "The timestamp's been altered. Marcus helped me carry paintings." But Samantha had already poisoned the well. I didn't want to say anything, she'd murmured to him. But Natalie's been so distant lately. Ethan's faith in me, once unshakable, cracked like ice in spring. He started working later, coming home smelling of Samantha's perfume from client dinners. He questioned my gallery sales, wondered aloud if Marcus bought pieces out of pity or something else. 3 days after Amelia's first birthday, I woke to silence. Our bank account, frozen. The credit cards, canceled. A letter from Whitmore and Associates informed me that due to suspected financial irregularities, all marital assets were under review. "Just until things are sorted," Ethan said, not meeting my eyes. "Dad's lawyers think it's best." "Your father's lawyers?" My voice broke. "When did they become involved in our marriage?" He stood by the window, shoulders rigid. "When you started keeping secrets." That night, Lucas had a fever. The pharmacy wouldn't take my canceled cards. I emptied my coat pockets for crumpled bills, counting change while the line behind me grew. 23.47. Just enough. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Lucas asked in his fevered haze. "Happy tears, baby. You're going to feel better soon." But I knew we were past medicine's help. This sickness had infected everything. The final blow came with legal precision. Vivian arrived with papers and a practiced sympathy smile. Postpartum depression is so serious, she cooed. We just want what's best for the children. Custody evaluation, psychiatric assessment, words that meant, we're taking your babies. I stood in my kitchen, my mother's cast iron pan still on the stove, Lucas's drawings on the fridge, Amelia's bottles drying in the rack, and felt the world tilt off its axis. Ethan, I whispered when he came home, please, you know me. You know I don't know anything anymore. He wouldn't look at our children, wouldn't look at me. Maybe sometime apart, maybe that's what we need. Samantha stood in the doorway of my studio. Her room now, victory written in every line of her body. 24 hours. That's what the eviction notice gave me. 24 hours to pack up a life. I moved into Mom's old storage unit in Newark, the one I'd kept paying for out of nostalgia and stubborn hope. Between molding boxes and forgotten furniture, I created a nest for my babies. Lucas asked why we were camping. Amelia just clung to me, sensing the change. Rock bottom tastes like government cheese and sounds like your son asking why daddy doesn't call. On the third night, searching for blankets, I found Mom's wooden box. Inside, every gallery program from my student shows, $3,000 in bonds she'd hidden, and a note, for when you need to fly, baby girl. I sobbed on the concrete floor until I had no tears left. Then I stood up. The pawn shop gave me enough for a sewing machine. I'd learned from Mom, making our clothes last beyond their natural life. But now I had artist's eyes, sculptor's hands. I created children's clothes that were miniature artworks, practical magic. Mama's designs, Lucas called them, proud. A friend from art school let me use her Instagram. Orders trickled in, one dress at a time, one customer referral leading to two. I worked while the baby slept, pins between my teeth, determined. The universe sometimes sends messengers. Mine came as Helen Chen, fashion blogger with 2 million followers, who bought a dress for her daughter at a Brooklyn market. Who made this? She demanded. I did. Do you have a business card, a website, anything? I shook my head. Just this. She bought every piece I had, posted photos that night. By morning, I had 500 orders. I couldn't fill them all, not from a storage unit with 2 toddlers. But Mrs. Rodriguez from the bodega offered her back room. Pay me when you can, she said. Mothers help mothers. 6 months became a year became 3. My fingers bled from needles, but each drop was mine. Not Whitmore money, not charity, mine. The workshop grew. I hired other single mothers, women who understood survival. We called ourselves Thread of Hope. The name fit. Then I found the photos, the real ones. A private investigator, conscience finally winning, slipped them under my workshop door. Samantha and Richard Whitmore. Date stamps from 5 years ago, hotel receipts. The whole sick truth. She'd been Richard's mistress, promised Ethan as payment for silence. Every manipulation, every lie, every stolen moment with my children, planned. I threw up until my stomach was empty, then sat with the evidence spread before me. I could destroy them. One call to the press, and the Whitmore empire would shatter. But I looked at my children, asleep in the corner of my workshop, my kingdom built from nothing, and chose differently. I would build something they couldn't touch. Something so bright it would eclipse their darkness. Not for revenge, for redemption. 20 years is long enough to build an empire. Mine rose from a storage unit floor to a glass tower overlooking Central Park. Thread of Hope dressed presidents' daughters and movie stars. We employed 10,000 women worldwide. My face graced magazine covers, from homeless to haute couture. Lucas, now 23, ran our charitable foundation. Amelia, 20, designed our youth line. They'd grown up in workshop back rooms, understanding that dignity comes from work, not birthright. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Carter? There's an Ethan Whitmore here. Says it's urgent. 20 years since I'd heard that name in my office. My hands didn't shake anymore. Send him up. He entered like a ghost of expensive suits, thin, gray-threaded, hollow-eyed. The golden boy tarnished beyond recognition. Natalie. His voice cracked on my name. I gestured to a chair, waited. I know the truth now. Words tumbled out. Samantha, she and my father, she destroyed everything, took everything. The company's gone. She married me after you left, then divorced me for Dad, then destroyed him too. It was all, God, Natalie, I'm so sorry. 20 years I'd imagined this moment, his apology, his regret. I thought I'd feel vindication. Instead, just quiet sadness for the boy who'd knelt on Rosie's sticky floor. I know, I said simply. I've known for 17 years. His face crumpled. You could have destroyed us. I was busy building something better. I don't expect forgiveness, he whispered. I needed you to know. I loved you. I loved you, and I let them convince me otherwise. It's the biggest regret. Stop. I stood, moved to the window. Below, Manhattan sparkled like scattered diamonds. Do you know what saved me? Not anger, not even love for our children, though that helped. It was realizing I'd never needed you to save me. I'd needed to save myself. Our children, he repeated. They know about you. I never poisoned that well. If they want a relationship, that's their choice. And us? I turned back. This man, once my world, now just a stranger, in an expensive suit worth less than the shoes I designed. There is no us. There's just what we build from the ashes. Natalie, your family's hotels went up for sale last month. I kept my voice steady. I bought them. All of them. I'm turning them into housing for women escaping domestic violence. Your mother's suite will be a daycare. He stared. You bought how? Apparently, I wasn't so untrained after all. He stood on unsteady legs. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, you were the only real thing in my life. I know, I said gently. That was never enough. After he left, I called my children. They came immediately, as they always did. My fierce Lucas, my brilliant Amelia. We stood together at the window, watching the city lights. You okay, Mom? Lucas asked. Yes. And I meant it. We all are. The storage unit girl had built a tower. The sparrow had grown wings of steel. And somewhere in Newark, I swear I could hear my mother laughing. Proud, joyful, free. Love hadn't saved me. I'd saved myself. And that was the greatest love story of all. Rosie's Diner still stands in Queens, though Rosie's granddaughter runs it now. I bring my executive team here sometimes, watching their designer heels navigate the cracked linoleum. We sit in the booth with the duct-taped seats, my booth, and plan how to change the world over coffee that tastes like memories. Why here? A new manager once asked. Because empires can start anywhere, I told her. Even in places that smell like grease and dreams. The bell chimed. A young woman entered, paint under her fingernails, exhaustion in her eyes. Art student, I'd bet. Dreamer, fighter, maybe both. I caught Rosie's eye, nodded toward the girl. Her meal's on me, and if she needs work, I'll let her know Thread of Hope is hiring. Rosie smiled. We pay it forward, always. That's how sparrows learn to soar, one lifted wing at a time. Lucas called as I left. Mom, Amelia's design just won the Paris Innovation Award. Of course it did. I smiled at the sky. We're Carter women. We don't just survive, we transcend. Above, real sparrows dance between buildings, small and brown and utterly fearless. I watched them navigate the giants of glass and steel, claiming their space in the sky. Not despite their size, because of it. The small ones, I've learned, often fly the highest. They have less weight to carry, more hunger to fuel them. And when they build their nests, they weave them from whatever they find, string and struggle, hope and heartbreak, until they've created something that can weather any storm. My phone buzzed. Another interview request. Another chance to tell young women, you don't need anyone's permission to fly. You just need to trust your wings. I thought of Ethan sometimes. Not with love or hate, just distant recognition. Like seeing a movie you once enjoyed, but can't quite remember why. He'd been a chapter, not my whole story. The prince who taught me I didn't need rescuing. The real fairy tale? It's messier, harder, infinitely more beautiful. It starts with a girl, ends with a woman. And in between is where we learn that happily ever after isn't something someone gives you. It's something you build yourself. One thread of hope at a time.